Hi there, I'm Simon Tubey. This is my presentation. So the fact that media plays such a large part in our lives cannot be overlooked. Since the dawn of man, humanity has revelled in the exchange of stories as a means to pass on information, as well as imparting influence on an audience. Whether the story be concerned parent tutoring the child with fairy tale warnings, or the intricacies of political influence expressed by multinational media corporation, there is always arguably an agenda. The same can be said when it comes to worldwide media and its influence on other countries. Understandably, Western media carries with it a very strong influence on the world and its politics and public opinions. The Media, Entertainment and Arts Alliance, or MEAA for short, has a list of 12 codes of conduct that are expected to be adhered to by reputable journalists and media bodies. These are: Number 1. Report and interpret honestly, striving for accuracy, fairness and disclosure of all essential facts. Do not suppress relevant available facts or give distorting emphasis. Do your utmost to give fair opportunity for reply. Do not place unnecessary emphasis on personal characteristics including race, ethnicity, nationality, gender, age, sexual orientation, family relationships, religious belief, or physical or intellectual disability. 3. Aim to attribute information to its source. Where a source seeks anonymity, do not agree without first considering the source's motives and any alternative attributable source. Where confidences are accepted, respect them in all circumstances. Number 4. Do not allow personal interest or any belief, commitment, payment, gift or benefit to undermine your accuracy, fairness or independence. 5. Disclose conflicts of interest that affect or could be seen to affect the accuracy, fairness or independence of your journalism. Do not improperly use a journalistic position for personal gain. Number 6. Do not allow advertising or other commercial considerations to undermine accuracy, fairness or independence. 7. Do your utmost to ensure disclosure of any direct or indirect payment made for interviews, pictures, information, or stories. 8. Use fair, responsible, and honest means to obtain material. Identify yourself and your employer before obtaining any interview for publication or broadcast. Never exploit a person's vulnerability or ignorance of media practice. Number 9. Present pictures and sounds which are true and accurate. Any manipulation likely to mislead should be disclosed. Number 10. Do not plagiarize. Number 11. Respect private grief and personal privacy. Journalists have the right to resist compulsion to intrude. Number 12. Do your utmost to achieve fair correction of errors. We can all think of situations where the media have come dangerously close to breaking the code of ethics, either by accident or intentionally. Arguably, the media is the public's independent portal for information about world events. Its public influence is significant and has contributed to the changing world. A hot topic has always been the subject of capital punishment and the subsequent media and public backlash connected to it. In 1922, Queensland abolished the death penalty, and 62 years later, Western Australia followed suit when the last death sentence was issued to Brenda Hodge for committing murder. Surveys conducted by Roy Morgan Research from 1947 through to 2009 asked whether the penalty for murder should be death or imprisonment. Their research showed that roughly 50% of the people surveyed were still biased in favour of the death penalty for murder right up until 1995. whilst in 2009 public opinion in favour of death penalty had dropped significantly to approximately 25% being in favour. Some countries, such as China, North Korea, the Yemen and Iran, have still not outlawed capital punishment and practice it to this day. Another country which has made the headlines with regards to its strict capital punishment laws is Indonesia. The infamous case of Chappelle Corby, who was sentenced to 20 years in prison in 2009 by the Indonesian justice system for trafficking drugs, received wide media coverage in Australia and around the globe. The Corby case enticed media coverage and set the precedent for how the media could influence international justice systems. Corby's trial and subsequent treatment in Indonesia led for members of the Australian public to protest with the Boycott Bali campaign that arguably unsettled the Indonesian Tourist Board, as Australian tourism was, and still is, a large source of Indonesia's income. The next large-scale media coverage of Indonesia's treatment of Australian citizens who were convicted of drug trafficking was the case of the Bali Nine. The 9 prisoners who were convicted of trafficking heroin were Andrew Chan, Myuran Sukuman, Si Yi Chen, Michael Jugard, Renee Lawrence, Tan Duk Than Nguyen, Matthew Norman, Scott Rush and Martin Stevens. 6 of the 9 faced the death penalty after some indiscretion by the Indonesian authorities with regards to the severity of their sentences, as well as Australian appeals. Andrew Chan and Myuran Sukuman, who were believed to be the ringleaders, faced a firing squad on the 29th of April 2015 after 9 years in prison. Indonesia's law number 22 of 1997, the narcotics law, punishes anyone who imports, exports, offers for sale, traffics, sells, purchases, offers up, accepts, or acts as an intermediary in the sale, purchase, or exchange of a Category 1 narcotic with death, life in prison, or up to 20 years in jail and a fine of up to 1 billion rupiah. On the 29th of April 2015, the ABC responded to the executions with the images of the convicted drug traffickers and their supporters. The emotionally charged report focused on the repent that Chan and Sukuman had for their crimes. In response to the executions, Prime Minister Tony Abbott withdrew the ambassador from Jakarta and described the executions as cruel and unnecessary. On the 30th of April 2015, Marissa Caligeros and Craig Butt from the Sydney Morning Herald published an article examining the world's media response to the executions. It was worth noting that from their observations, the Bali Times made no mention of their executions whatsoever. In America, where capital punishment is still legal, an alternative union between crime and media has been observed by Craig Haney in his 2009 paper entitled Media Criminology and the Death Penalty. Haney draws a link between American crime and law enforcement shows and the negative influence it has on American audience, who are ultimately responsible for voting in and approving such punishments as the death penalty. In the concluding part of Haney's paper, he states, "Media criminology is so pervasive in American society that its lessons are impossible to avoid. Citizens are bombarded with largely consistent and consistently problematic perspective of criminality, conveyed in powerful, dramatic, and increasingly engaging ways. The media's criminology teachings consistently misrepresent the nature and magnitude of the crime threat, generating ever-increasing audience shares and profits by making the public very afraid, very angry, and very invested in making sure that criminals pay dearly. In my own conclusion, I can confirm that popular media does influence public perceptions about criminal justice sanctions in a variety of ways. Thank you very much. I hope this has been interesting for you.